So I just bought some new cages and I actually have the boxes. These are what we've been using for over a year and they have been doing great for us. We were making our own cages, but wire was just getting super expensive, and in the end these were just cheaper and they lasted better. Because with my wire cages, I was putting them on a wooden frame and the rabbits were chewing the wood. And they're just easy little cages that open and shut. And they come in 3 different sizes. I have my singles, which are 24 by 24. My breeding cages with mamas that are expecting babies, which are 30 by 30. And I don't know if you can see the babies in there or not, but she has 6 babies in there. These are my grow out cages, which are 36 by 36. I also have metal Pet Lodge ones. I don't like them as much. I like the Do More ones better. But I like the Do More ones because it's coated wire and they're easy to clean. So here's the way I do my breeding. I'll take the doe I want and put it in the buck's cage. This is my doe Solstice, and this is my buck Strawberry. And then I just kind of watch to see if they're gonna do their thing. And apparently my doe wants to breed my buck, but my buck is not into it. I promise that black one's a doe. But this is why you want to stand and watch your rabbits breed, because sometimes the females can get a little feisty with the males. Now, if my doe continues to be feisty for my male and my male doesn't seem interested, I'll stand to breed them. Now, I'm not very sure on TikTok's terms of service of if they are going to allow me to do a stand breeding on here. But basically the idea is you hold the doe so that she can't move and you lift her hind end so that the buck can breed her. I'll do 3 breedings and then in another 12 hours I'll do 3 more breedings. And just remember, unless you have a proven colony setup, do not leave your does with the bucks because the does can castrate them. So some of our cages are super simple. They just have these drip pans that we pull out and we dump. Same with our pans on the bottom row here on the stack. Now for our middle and top cages, it's kind of interesting what we do, but it works. I'll take the cage closest to the door and put it on my other stack like this. So he just chills there for a little while. Then I'll take these pans and I'll go empty them in our compost area after we let the chickens pick through and eat all of the fallen feed. Then I'll take the pans that are on this side and just push them down the line and replace it with a new clean tray so that I can take the next one out and dump it again. I just do that over and over and over and over and over again until all the trays are clean, and then I will replace the buck back on his original stack. So I recently posted a rabbit breeding video that got a little bit of a mixed review. As when some of my videos go viral, I sometimes get a bit of the pet community in here as well as the agricultural community. So for those of you that say raising rabbits for meat is wrong and I shouldn't be doing it the way I'm doing it, why? What are your sources? Because I have my sources lined up ready to go to tell you why the way I do things is a good way to do them. And before you post your answers, this is not me prefacing saying that you should keep your pet rabbits any kind of way, or that you are necessarily wrong in the way that you do things. I'm just opening up a lines of communication where we can all share how we raise meat rabbits together. And if you're not my target audience, that's fine. But in order to get me to stop raising rabbits for meat, you're going to have to give me a better reason than because I don't like it. So normally when I'm feeding my rabbits, I've been using Mana Pro. It's my favorite feed of all time, especially their green bag for growing kits and milking does. Mostly so I don't need a supplement with black oil sunflower seeds and oats. Well, now we have a supply chain shortage and I cannot find it anywhere. So what am I gonna do about it? And no, crying in a corner is not an option. We're gonna switch back to Producer's Pride, which is like the Tractor Supply off-brand. Which there's nothing wrong with it, right? My kits grow amazing on it, it does really well with my adult rabbits. The thing I have found is with Producer's Pride, it doesn't give my rabbits the coat that I like. It doesn't give it that shine that I like, especially for my show rabbits. So I'll bring back the black sunflower seeds and the oats. But While I'm doing this, let's talk about what you need to do if you're switching your rabbit's feed. You need to slowly wean them off the old stuff and onto the new stuff. So what we'll do is for a few days, we'll do 25% new feed, 75% old feed. Then after those few days have passed, we'll go 50-50. A few more days will pass, we'll go 25-75, with the new feed being the bulk, until we can completely move the rabbit over to the new feed. The idea is to take it nice and slow with a new feed on a rabbit. The slower you go, the better. Within reason, of course. Because new feed can be difficult on a rabbit's digestive system. It can cause issues like GI stasis, diarrhea, and other things that could kill your rabbit. I just really wish that my Mana Pro was showing up on the mountain again. So I was on here talking to somebody of water bottles versus bowls. And I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't like bowls. And I much prefer water bottles. Chronic dehydration has been brought up a lot in my discussions and conversations with people, and I don't find it to be a problem. The bowls I have hold about 6 ounces of water, but my water bottles hold 24 ounces of water. For one rabbit, I'll refill both twice a day. So they get more water with the water bottles. Then also, the reason I like water bottles better than bowls is there's this thing called wet dewlap. So all of my girls have this big thing under their neck. It's just this big fluffy fur thing. And that's a dewlap. And they have a bad habit of putting that in their water. During the summer, that getting chronically wet can cause things like mold and bacteria to grow. And you have to shave it down and dry it, and it can cause a whole bunch of disease and grossness. But in the winter, if they continuously get that wet, it can cause things like pneumonia and colds and other sicknesses, runny noses, green snot. So it's more sanitary and better for my rabbits to drink out of a water bottle where they aren't going to put their whole neck in the water. And then there's always the argument of water bottles are bad for their teeth. And I want to ask how. Rabbits are rodents, which means their teeth are continuously growing and they need to gnaw on something to actually wear those teeth down. Now, the rabbits get wood chews and they chew on their cages, so that does help. But with water bottles, they're also chewing on them, so the way I see it, it helps wear those teeth down. I also like in the summer to take my water bottles and freeze them halfway so that I can put water on top of the ice so that they have continuous ice water when it gets hot. But yeah, that's what I prefer, and I'd love to hear what y'all prefer down in the comments down below. Maybe you'll change my mind. Welcome back to Bunny Crash Course 101, the series where I try to explain to you all the weird words that I use. Part 3. Let's hop right into it. Malocclusion, where a rabbit's teeth aren't sitting correctly in the mouth and they are either over or under bit, making it where the teeth cannot properly wear against each other. Sore hocks, a condition in where the back feet have either no hair or have sores on them. This is mostly caused by genetic factors or can be caused by inappropriate wire. Correct wire does not cause sore hocks. Hutch burn or urine burn, a chemical burn caused by rabbit urine. We normally see it when rabbits are sitting on dirty bedding, or if there are urine guards and the urine is splashing up on them. Quick tip of the day, how to tell if your baby bunnies are being fed by their mama. So there are 8 babies in here. I should be able to pull any of them out and see big tummies. So if you look at this little white baby, you see that she has a very full belly. So I answered this in my comment section, but I figured I could answer it here as well because it's good to retouch on every once in a while. My general rule of thumb is to feed my rabbits a 1/4 cup of feed per pound of body weight. Meaning that if I am feeding one of my mini Rexes and they are 4 pounds, I'm going to feed them a cup a day. Now that's just a general rule of thumb. Sometimes my mini Rex get extremely fat, like very easy. So I find that a lot of them in my barn only need about a 1/2 cup of food a day once they get to maturity. They also have free access to hay through the day. And now that we are switching over to Producers Pride, we're going to be supplementing our milking doughs with black oil sunflower seeds and oats. And each of those doughs get about a tablespoon of each per feeding. Let's talk about extras in the cage. Though not needed, a lot of our rabbits do have resting boards or cardboard and extra toys. It provides enrichment for them and something to do, but it's not necessarily needed. As you can see here, most of the time they don't even use them. Remember, proper wire gauges don't cause sore hocks. Want to make some braised rabbit with me? It's super duper simple and very delicious. You're going to take some butter and throw it on a hot skillet and wait for it to melt on medium-high heat. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're going to take your rabbit out of the fridge, cover it in as much salt and pepper as your little heart desires on both sides before taking that rabbit and throwing it on your hot skillet. Let that sit for 5 minutes before flipping it over. Make sure you are trusting that process. Do not flip that rabbit over before it's done. I know it's tempting, but it's worth the wait, I promise you. Get yourself a little bit of wine that you're going to be using later. Once it's perfect and you have that nice little flip, you're going to see a nice golden brown crust. You're going to allow it to sit for another 5 minutes on that other side before you go into the fridge, and you're going to get yourself some garlic, nice and chopped up, and throw it in the middle there. Get as much as you want. Make it to where people ask if you're okay or not. Get a little bit of salt and pepper on that while your garlic's cooking. Make sure it's on medium heat. Don't burn that garlic now. And you're going to wait for another 2 or 3 minutes before you deglaze your rabbit with a beautiful red wine of choice. I might have put a little too much red wine here, but it's okay. You can always cook it down until it makes a nice syrupy sauce before putting on your chicken broth. I am poor, so this is a bouillon cube in water. Either way, it's going to be delicious. You're going to let that cook down a little bit before you throw that into your oven for another 30 minutes. You're going to let it cook until the internal temperature is about 170 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It got there, I was just too lazy to record it all. If you overcook your glaze, you can always rehydrate it with a little bit of water. We're not perfect, we all do it sometimes. But once you plate that up, it's going to be this beautiful, beautiful color. Once it's to this point, you just gotta sit down and enjoy. Hey y'all, I just wanted to give a general warning that tomorrow is going to be one of my butcher days. So if you aren't into that kind of thing, stay away from my page for a little while. But I will say tomorrow is going to be a very interesting one. I won't be culling out any of my meat rabbits, but instead I'm going to be culling out some of my mini Rex. Which means I'll leave them whole instead of butchering them down, which makes it easier on me. I'm going to explain why I'm butchering these 2 rabbits, which is going to be more interesting than just, oh, they're meat rabbits that no longer fit the program or they're fryers. I also have a potential customer coming out tomorrow to kind of observe the butchering, just to verify that they'll be able to do meat rabbits and they know what they're supposed to do. So I am excited for tomorrow from an educational standpoint. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're not, I'll see you on the next one. Because we're culling mini Rex today, I figured we can talk about why you would cull in a show barn compared to a meat barn. So culling in a meat barn is pretty simple. You cull everything that isn't the fastest growing, largest animal you have. In a show barn, though, it's a little different, especially if you're raising mini breeds. But understand that if you are raising show stock, at some point in time you will have to cull your animals, whether that be a hard cull or a soft cull. A hard cull means you dispatch them and you butcher them out, where a soft cull means that you take them out of your breeding program. Now this could be in the form of pets, this could be in the form of sales, whatever it is, you need to have it out of your breeding program. When raising show rabbits, learn your standard of perfection for your breed. In the first couple months of life, it'll be easy to take out the animals that do not meet the standard of perfection. Maybe they have something really easy to spot, like a malocclusion. Maybe it's harder to spot, but very easy to tell as out of standard is the color of their toenails. But beyond those obvious things, you need to start learning your standard of perfection to learn what you need in your barn. Body types are a great way to tell whether or not something should stay in your program. If you have a problem with long shoulders in your barn, you're not going to keep any animals that continue to have that problem. You're going to keep out of that litter the animal that has the shortest shoulder. Same if you have the problem with a pinched hindquarter. You're only going to keep your animals that don't have that problem. And remember, in a show barn, there are going to be times where you don't keep a single kit out of your litter, and that's completely okay. Remember, the idea is to keep the best and cull the rest. If you're not willing to do hard culls in your breeding program, you're not going to get past your stock being good. Great stock comes from a lot of hard decisions. Keep your standard of perfection in mind and don't keep poor quality stock, because in the end, it's only going to hold you back from your true potential. Alright, y'all. Last time when I was culling out animals, we talked about the meat side of things. I'm going to now tell you why I'm going to cull out the two animals we're calling out today for the show side of things. This is Coco. He's actually one of my starter bucks. He's about 4 years old, and I've had him for quite a hot minute. He's served me quite well, to be honest. He has a pretty good top line. He's a little pinched in the hindquarters, and he has a decent shoulder. I haven't ever actually taken him to show, but he has produced amazing show animals for me. His daughters have gone on to win classes, have won best of breed. I'm working on trying to get a best of show out of the ones he just had with another doe. But he's too ingrained in my lines. He's the father or the grandfather or the uncle of everything I had, and it's the main reason I had to bring in another buck into my program. This cull isn't going to be easy for me today because this is a breeder I've had for a long time. But with that being said, Coco has been losing weight and I haven't been able to get it up, and it's not fair to let him continue like that when no matter what you do, nothing has helped. So it's time to move forward because I have better than him, and also it's not fair to him to keep him if he isn't keeping weight on. Our next cull today is this little broken castor doe, and that's because she's on like strike 6. In my barn, I typically have a 3-strike rule, and then they're gone. I don't want to have them in my breeding program. Her first litter, she cannibalized half of it. She had 6 babies and cannibalized all but 3. She had a litter recently, never pulled fur, never produced milk. She produced 5 babies and I had to foster all of them out to another doe. She produces babies that don't have the correct toenails or markings, and although she has produced some beautiful babies on other lines, she's made it more difficult than it's worth. I have limited cage space here, and I can replace her with one of her daughters or sons and have a better line that's not going to be so much trouble. So those are the 2 animals we're going to be culling today, and those are the reasons why. In a breeding program, it's important to keep things in mind and remember that it's not worth keeping subpar stock, even if you've had them for a while. So I just got done butchering and I'm taking a few minutes just to kind of relax and answer some questions, and I thought this was really good. But I do have a pelt video coming up here in a little bit, so stay tuned. At 8 weeks, I'll take a litter and I'll start evaluating them. At that age, I'll take out like the obvious not good qualities. Mismatched toenails, incorrect markings, bad fur quality, that kind of thing. If they don't meet the program at that point, then they immediately go for a cull. At least for my meat rabbits. That might leave me with like 1 or 2 I am him-hawing about in a litter, and I'll let those grow out till about 12 weeks. Normally at about 12 weeks, I have a general idea if they're past their ugly phase, and then I can decide whether to keep them or not. With that being said, I have on occasion, if I'm kind of on the fence about something, the longest I kept an animal hem-hawing about it was 20 weeks. And I'm glad I did because it was one of my really good show rabbits. And the reason why I took so long on her is I didn't know if she was going to fill out, and I was worried about her depth. But when her depth finally filled out, she was a gorgeous show bunny. Let's talk about pelts. When it comes to pelts, I like to tan about 20 at a time. With that being said, I don't necessarily butcher out 20 rabbits. So how do I preserve these until I'm ready to use them? Well, after I'm done butchering the animal, I'll bring the pelt inside and I'll clean off and brush off any extra dirt I have. If it's a light colored coat and I might have gotten a little bit of blood on it, I might take a little hydrogen peroxide and wipe it down just enough to make sure it doesn't stain. Once I get them kind of cleaned up, what I do is I take a little sandwich baggie, I take my pelt, and I roll it up like so. And I just put it right into the sandwich baggie. Once it's in the sandwich baggie, I try to take all the air I can out of it. Then I just put it out in my deep freeze. I'll keep those in my deep freeze until I'm ready to use them, like I said, about 20 at a time. This allows me to preserve them before I tan them. That way I'm using as much of the animal as possible without waste. Alright, everyone's been asking me about my tanning process, and I'm going to give you a general overview. I can't show you the process because I don't have enough pelts, but as soon as I do, I'm going to do a whole video on it. But what I do is salt and alum tanning. So I take one of those big 5-gallon blue buckets that you can get from like Lowe's. I'll take 1 cup of high yield alum, 1 cup of non-iodized salt, and then 3 gallons of warm water. I'll mix that all together and I'll throw my hides in with it. I'll leave those hides in a pickle for about 7 days, making sure that I stir it once or twice a day to make sure it's all like evenly coated around the furs. Those 7 days, I'll pull the hides out, I'll squeeze them, not twist them, and take them all out of that pickle. Once I get most of that pickle off the hide, I start fleshing it, so I start taking the skin off of it. Now you're going to take that pickle that you've been saving, because you're not going to dump it out, and you're going to make it stronger. And you're going to add another cup of salt and another cup of alum. Put the hides back in that stronger pickle, and you're going to redo the process of leaving it in there and stirring it up. Now, depending on how long you want to leave it is up to you. You can do anywhere from 7 to 10 to 14 days. It depends on like your process. I like about 10 days or so. After that, you're going to take your furs, you're going to take them out of the pickle, you're going to squeeze the water out of them, and you're going to kind of wash that pickle out. I like baby shampoo. It works really nice to get that pickle out, and the fragrance on the furs isn't too bad. Then after they come out of the wash, I hang them to dry, and once or twice a day, I'll go through and I'll stretch those furs out as they're drying. But once the hide is completely dry, then you can actually start breaking the leather instead of stretching it. And what you do is you take the hide and you like rub it against the back of a chair, hide down, fur up, so you don't like ruin the fur. But the leather kind of turns like this nice white color as it's breaking. And after you're done breaking it, you just kind of rub in some oil of choice. Mink oil is pretty good. And then your leather is done and good to go. So yeah, that's kind of like a general overview. I know it's a lot, and it's kind of weird to like talk through it and not see it. But as soon as I get enough pelts and my alum comes in, I'm going to do an entire video series on it.